Today I want to talk about what I think is the most versatile tube amp for me. Spoiler alert, you could probably stop watching the video now. It's the Princeton Reverb. But the purpose of this video is not to convince you why the Princeton Reverb should be the best and most versatile tube amp for you. It's about going through my thought process and what makes this the most versatile and best tube amp for me right now, given what I play, where I play, how I play, where I live, etc. In other words, the process is going to be kind of the same, I think, for everybody. And because we're all different, we all have different needs and play different styles of music, we may have a different ideal, perfect, most versatile tube amp, or amp for that matter. Okay, so, and you know, we tend to, us guitar players and amp heads and gear heads, we tend to obsess. You probably do it just like I do about, you know, we hem and haw and we go back and forth about what we should buy and what we need. And we all want to get the most versatility out of a single package. So I'm just going to cover some points that I was looking for in an amp and what those points are that I think makes the Princeton Reverb the best amp for me. And in a future video, I'm going to plug into this amp and play through the various styles of music that I talk about in this video and go over some of the features of this amp to show you what it is I mean. The first thing I had to consider was wattage, right? How loud does this amp need to be? If you're playing, let's say, at home and you live in an apartment, let's say that's the only playing you're going to do is at home in an apartment. Well, then a Princeton, 12 watts is probably too loud, right? That's what I'm saying. You have to kind of go over what's most important to you for your needs. You might want a 5-watt amp, I don't know, maybe a Champ or some lower wattage amp. Or let's say you live in an apartment, you're only playing at home, but you play hard rock or hardcore, something that requires high gain. Well, you're not going to want probably any sort of Fender clean amp. You might go for more of a modeling type amp, or maybe even, who knows, maybe even a Roland Cube. There's a cube back here somewhere. I'm afraid if I pull it down, I'm going to pull this shelving down. Okay? So a lot of it's going to come down to what type of music you play. If you gig a lot, you might want something that can cover at-home volume plus gigging volume. For me, that's where the Princeton Reverb is a very good fit, because it'll cover 90% or more of the gigs that I do. I don't need a 50-watt amp or a 30-watt amp even, usually. I just do much more casual gigs in smaller rooms. And though it's a little bit loud for at home, it's not over the top for me, for my living arrangement. If I lived in a studio apartment in a building with a roommate, then 12 watts of Princeton definitely would be way too much. But for me, it is perfect. It's a compromise like everything, but it's pretty much perfect. Another thing in a tube amp, especially, is it has to be reliable. You want an amp that is time tested for reliability. This I like because it's a vintage Princeton and it was serviced, and it's a very simple circuit. It could be modded, it could be maintained. It's got, I think, a total of 6 tubes in it. It's not hard to keep this amp in tip-top shape, working reliably day in and day out. And I kind of beat the you-know-what out of this amp, and it just kind of keeps coming back for more. Okay? So, and like I said, it's also easy to mod. That's what's great about tube amps in general, and especially a Fender Princeton, being that it's such an easy circuit. There's all sorts of mods that could be done to this amp. Mid-pot control, you could change the bias to make it easily adjustable. You could change values. I'm not a tech guy like that, but there's certain values of caps and resistors that could be changed to tweak the amp. Of course, the most obvious, you could change out the speaker. And in a one-speaker amp like the Princeton, that's really, really easy to do. You could try out a few different speakers and find the one you like the best for your amp. The other thing that I like about tube amps in general, and this is when compared to, let's say, the Tone Master amp, right? Every tube amp is a little bit different. And these mods that I'm talking about, down to from tube selection to perhaps mods that you make to the circuitry, to speaker changes, really take an amp and turn it into your amp, your sound. Whereas if you were to get like a Tone Master, although they sound great, they all sound identically the same. And yeah, you can change the speaker, but you don't really have a unique sounding amp tweaked to your specific liking. That's what I love about tube amps in general, and especially the Princeton, because the Princeton just sounds so good. Oh, there, I had to say it. Again, you may not be your favorite amp, but the thought process can go into your thought process and help you figure out what might be your best, most versatile amp. Okay, so it's easy to mod. It also has to be able to cover the ranges of sound, the ranges of styles and sound that you play. If you play, again, like I said, if you play death metal, you're not going to want a Fender Princeton. It's not going to be the most versatile amp for you. Okay? What I like about it is this is a very, very good sounding Fender clean. I like that it can be played, it could be turned up to a decent volume and start to break up a little bit on its own. That breakup could be enhanced with pedals to really give you a really, really good overdriven sound. Okay? In other words, it's a good pedal platform, which makes it super, super versatile. It's got a beautiful clean, and it can be driven to sound really, really good for most types of music, except the heaviest types of music, which I don't really play. And even then, you can get pedals if you're just a casual player of harder music, more heavy music. You can get a pedal that'll emulate a Marshall, and if you don't play it that often, that'll be more than enough for you with the Princeton. We put a fuzz face into this. One day I'll do a video on that, and man, let me tell you something. This thing was kick ass. It was ripping. Okay. The other thing regarding the clean sound of the Fender Princeton is, what I like about it is it's not super scooped like other Fender blackface/silverface amps are. That makes this clean a very versatile clean. Even more versatile, I would say, than the Deluxe Reverb. Okay? And to me, definitely more versatile than like the Vibrolux and the larger Fender amps, because they're more scooped, the Silverface and Blackface amps. Whereas the Princeton, when you turn it up a little bit, it has a little bit of mid-range. So you're not kind of stuck with that smiley face scooped Fender sound like you can be on other Blackface and Silverface amps. By the same token, it's got a beautiful clean, whereas maybe a Tweed or Blues amp might not give you the same level of pristine, clean sound and vibrato and reverb that this amp does. And that gets to my next subject, which is, do you want the amp to have any kind of effects built in? Well, for me, a good reverb is important, especially because of the types of music I play, which is kind of a little bit of everything: pop, jazz, rock, classic rock, little folk, little R&B, I don't know if I said that already, and funk. Having a little reverb, and for recording, is really handy to have. And the Princeton is one of the most beautiful sounding reverbs that there is. Another thing I love about the Princeton in particular is the vibrato. The vibrato on a Princeton is probably the most beautiful amp vibrato, other than a Vibro Verb, that you're going to find. It, in my opinion, blows away the vibrato on a Deluxe Reverb, because the Deluxe Reverb uses what's like an optocell type of vibrato, which you kind of hear this ticking. And even if you don't have one that's particularly ticky, the vibrato itself still has this pulsing kind of unnatural ticking to it, whereas on a Princeton, it uses the bias of the tubes themselves. Again, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not a tech head. And it creates a vibrato that's very, very, like, very natural, like a whoa, 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 whoa. It doesn't sound clicky, for lack of a better word. Another thing is, how heavy is the amp? For me, I'm using the amp at home, but I'm also gigging with it at least once or twice a week. And the Princeton is able to deliver the volume I need and more at a gig, even with a drummer, but it's not too heavy. It's only one 10-inch speaker, which makes it a very easy and small amp to transport, to carry upstairs. You're not going to bang into doorways. You're not going to throw your back out. You're going to have enough room in your car for it with all your other junk that you have to take with you. And when you're at the gig, you can kind of turn the amp up and put it into a sweet spot where the amp starts to really sound full and the volume won't be too loud. Okay? And if you need more volume, let's say you need more clean volume, you just put a volume pedal in front of it or a boost pedal, and you could really push a lot of volume out of a small 12-watt amp. Did I say I love the Fender Princeton? Yeah, I think I did. Okay. So at the risk of being long-winded, I'm going to call it quits for today. Please like and subscribe if you like this type of content. My channel consists of lessons, live performances, gear reviews, some music theory, everything that I think a well-rounded guitar player would like. And like I said, in a future video, very soon, I'm going to demo some of the features of this amp. So stay tuned, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.